Well, it is 5 o'clock in Red Deer, and it's time for Jason Irwin and his next session. This is going to be interesting because Jason and Irwin are like a well-oiled team, and they work together. Jason and Bronwyn work together all the time, and now, while Jason is doing this, Bronwyn is over doing a pole bending exhibition and pole bending demonstration, so they won't be together for this one. However, this has all been really, really interesting, and another great colt. Boy, been a lot of fun, eh, Cade?
This has been a really fun trainer challenge to watch, and I got to say I've never had better seats for anything in my whole life. I never get to sit front row.
I got to try and get a selfie of us because I haven't posted anything on Facebook for a while. Hey, there we go. Okay, microphone. Hey, we'll put that up right away.
Look at us being all trendy, Hugh.
Yeah.
All these colts have such a natural curiosity. When you see them in here, they're all sniffing and looking at everything, walking over the tarps.
I think so. Is Jason here? Oh.
Jason looks ready to rock. You good, man?
I don't see him, but let's start without him.
I can see him. He says he's ready to go. Come on in, man.
Okay. All right. We'll start the clock now, Jason. 45 short minutes.
All right. Let's get ready to roll here in just 1 second. Same deal as always. Just got to grab this fella. He's just a little bit where he always has to kind of do this on his time. That wasn't his time. And again, this guy here is always just a little better on his left than his right, so I may be able to get him from this side, but ideally I would kind of like to get around on the other side of him. He's kind of one of those ones, he's a very nice horse, but he's just not the most trusting horse in the world. And that, so he's going to take just a little of that time to kind of warm up here. There. You know, just kind of pet on him. Every chance I get, I'm going to make a point of sort of rubbing on him and trying to get him where he kind of loves up with me just a little bit. He's one of those ones that I think kind of, he's going to be very, very personable, but it's sort of going to be on his clock. So every chance I have to kind of love on him a little bit and try to get him tied onto me, I think that's a pretty good thing. So I'm going to go around here, same as before. I'm just going to move him a couple times around me, just because I always want to start with something they've already done. Now this time here, he's stepping around a lot nicer than he was before. Before I had to put a fair bit of pressure on him to keep him going. He gets stuck, I just lift my whip a little bit like that to keep him rolling. I'm going to yield the hindquarters here. That was pretty decent. I'm going to step them out the other way. When they get up in my space, sometimes I'll just take the whip and put it up like that. And as soon as he finds that spot, again, I just go ahead and release on him again. So I just kind of put him in a spot where there's pressure everywhere except where I want him to go. As soon as he finds that, I just take everything away. Same deal, just going to yield the hindquarters. At this stage, I'm using the halter rope more than anything else. Eventually, I'll get that from just a look. But at this stage, I'm happy enough doing it this way. So I'm going to step him around here again. Yield the hindquarters. And I'm probably not going to do a whole lot more on that than right now. Another thing I'm going to do, I haven't touched on this part yet, but we do a lot of liberty training. And if liberty training is something you're not familiar with, it's when you have your horse loose and you're guiding them around and doing different things. A lot of times it kind of ties in with trick training a little bit. However, there are a lot of advantages to liberty. Our program is a shade different in that we start the liberty with the lead rope on. So something I'm going to do here is I'm going to back away from this horse, touch him on the shoulder, back up, draw him to me, and then stop. What I'm trying to teach him is when there's a little bit of pressure, the answer is to come up to me. And eventually, in theory, I could work on this for a while. and eventually I could have a horse like him 50 or 100 feet away. My cue would just be to step back, open up, and that horse would come running to me. And sometimes we train horses for commercials and things like that, and this is a time where that kind of stuff really comes in handy. So just a little bit of pressure on them, draw back, and bring them to me. And I'm not going to spend a ton of time on this, but the reason I'm doing it here is it teaches the horse, again, that the best place in the world is to be with me. So every time he feels pressure, the answer is to be with me. And this guy here, although he is very nice, he is one of those ones that just doesn't love up quite as much. So anything I can do to kind of teach him that being with me is a good thing is great. Once I try to pick up this pace a little bit, what I do is let the lash out, kind of flip this behind him, and I'd like him to trot a few steps towards me just like that. And you notice a lot of times I'm raising my whip in the air as a stop cue. That does stop the horse. Later on, though, if you want to take this to a fairly high level, in theory, I could have my whip straight in the air, standing a long distance off, drop my whip and have the horse come running to me, which again is something that sometimes we do with a little bit of the stuff with the commercials and a little bit of film work. So again, I'm going to back up, create that little pressure. He comes up to me. I stop, and I'll make a point of petting him with the whip. Because even though I flicked him there, I don't want him ever getting scared of it. So I tend to pet with the whip quite a bit. And I'm just going to do this a couple more times on this side. Nice. Now I'm just going to do it on the other side. So as most of you probably know, everything you teach on one side with your horse, you must teach it on the other.
Jason, you and Bronwyn were on Canada's Got Talent with your horses. Is that true?
That is true.
When do we get to see this footage? I'm excited to see it. I saw ads for it, but I haven't got to see the video yet.
Actually, it just came out about a week ago. So for that one there, if anybody's familiar with the Got Talent shows, we thought we'd try to do it with some horses. So we went to, it was actually a theater stage in a casino. So we took the horses, had to walk them downtown Niagara Falls to get in the building. Put them in there, loaded them in an elevator, put them up the elevator, took them out down the alleyway. And then I thought it was funny because it was mostly in front of people that were very city-ish and they'd never seen anything like that. So we were practicing with the halters, lead ropes, and bridles on. And then we said to the one lady, you realize they're going to be loose here next time we come on. And they're like, oh my God. And then a pause. What's loose mean? Like, I'll put it this way, it's harder than what you're seeing this time.
You think your horse is broke until you have to put him in an elevator.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was on CTV, what was it, about 2 weeks ago, I think, right on the regular Canada's Got Talent show. And that was the first episode of Canada's Got Talent I ever watched. And I got to tell you, the only part worth watching was these two, really.
It was really good. I'm glad you're not a biased opinion. So that there, haven't come up a few times, and I'm happy with that. So I'm just going to go ahead, put this on him. Same deal. I'm not going to prep as much, but I tend to throw it on once or twice, just easy like that, but not sneaking. Just going to wait for him to stop, pet on him. Kind of go like so. And this colt here, he shuffles a little bit when I put the saddle on, but he's not been terrible about it. So I'm trying to get more and more where he just stands still. I'll help him a little bit as he shuffles, but as we go along with this, I would like him to get better and better about standing. I tend not to hold them still very much. If they move, I kind of let them in the very beginning stages, but then once we kind of go along here, I try to have it where they're not held still. It's because they know to stand still. So I'm going to put this on here. This isn't anything I can't live with, so if he shuffles that much, I'm okay with it. Let's get this around here. I had to tighten the far side a little bit just because this colt does tend to suck up quite a bit.
It's always tough coming to a trainer challenge. You never know what size of cinch to bring. I always bring 2 or 3 because you might be anywhere from a 26 to a 36.
That is true. And that's one problem though we have is when we come out here, everything goes on the plane. So normally I try to bring everything but the kitchen sink in case I need it. And then all of a sudden on the plane, we have to kind of get a little bit pickier with what
Yeah.
makes the cut and what doesn't. P.S. If you fly and you're 1 pound over, Air Canada is terrible. So I just gonna let this guy move around here again. Now, actually, I wasn't gonna do the breast collar up yet, but that's kind of flopping around, so I'm just gonna go ahead and do that. So buckle this guy up again. I tend to use these a little bit, but I don't put them on the first couple times just because I find that it's just more tack to get on, and I'd rather have less to deal with than more. Also, too, I'm kind of glad I just finished a trailer loading clinic a few minutes ago. I was kind of losing my voice. It seems to be holding together decent enough for the moment, but we were at Expo a few weeks ago. I lost my voice and I was so croaky. Luckily, my wife was in the stands and she came down and actually taught the clinic for me. But as Hugh pointed out, she's off teaching another clinic somewhere, obviously only worrying about herself and not me. So she's not here to bail me out. So I'm trying to, hopefully I can keep this together long enough to get through the session here. But so far I think I feel fine.
Just like the others, they're all paid by the word, so the more you talk, the more you make.
Fair enough. So that guy there, I was pretty happy with that. He's getting where he's not tightening up as much when I throw the tack on. So I'm happy about that. He was tightening quite a bit. It's getting to be a lot less. And I think one thing that was helping, I did start with the saddle. I don't want to say loose, but loose enough he didn't get too worked up about it, and then gradually worked snugger as I went along. Again, he does not love the bridling, but he's been getting a little bit better with it.
Should point out that whole section of people in the VIP section are all Air Canada employees, Jason.
All right, here. So right there. Again, he's getting better with the bridling. I'm not going to let him lean on me. Sometimes when I get near his face, he starts kind of pushing into me a wee bit. But that time there, he was a lot better about it, so I'm happy about that. And this bit is almost where this could be the right notch or one tighter, but I don't like to do it too tight because then they have pressure on their mouth all the time, and I'm trying to get away with less, not more. Let me go ahead here. Now, same as before, I'm just going to touch on this real quick on the ground. I'm not going to do a lot of it just because I have done enough that I'm not going to make it a big deal this time around. Gonna check this cinch again. Snug her up one more. Now this colt here, again, he gets just a shade resistant sometimes, so I'm just gonna play around with getting him to give to pressure on the ground a little bit first. And he's starting to back off that a lot softer than he was earlier. Before, he'd really lean into that pressure, and now he's giving it to it quite nicely. So I'm happy with that part right there. Now, I am going to grab my little stick here, just because occasionally this guy gets a little bit stuck. So I'm just going to have this here, and I'll maybe just touch him very, very lightly if he does tend to get a little jammed up with me here. So get this guy around. Little trick, it's always a good idea to have the left foot farther forward than the right foot. That way there, when you step on, they can lean on that leg and they're not going to move their feet as likely. If the left foot is back and you step on, if the left foot is back and you step on, it'll cause their knee to buckle, and then they're more likely to walk off with you. So if possible, try to have it where the legs are equal, or have the left slightly in front of the right. And I have a sneaky feeling now you're going to just do the opposite just for fun. So I'm going to pick up on him here and wait for him to stop. And if he's shuffling, what I'm actually going to do is create just a little commotion. So instead of trying to keep him still, I'm just going to create a little fuss, swing this around till he finds a stopping point. And I think he'll get bored here in just a second. Oh, thought I found it. I'm going to back him up one. Now I'm going to start scratching immediately on him and kind of just holding enough if he tries to walk off, because I think it's a really good idea. Try to teach your colts to stay still from the very beginning until you tell them to walk off. If you have one that walks off when you get on, that can be a hard habit to break. First ride or two, I could maybe live with it, but once we get past that, that's a habit I just don't feel that I need to have there in the first place. So I'm just going to steer this guy around a little bit. It's same as before. Now we're just going to cruise around easy at a walk, and I'm just going to kind of let him get the feel of me again. I've been on him twice now, but I always want to have it where I start all the rides off really slow and relax if possible. If he had a ton of energy, I would maybe walk around for 30 seconds and then start trotting just to burn off any silly energy. But at the same time, if he would just be happy about walking around, I'm going to be happy about just letting him cruise. Also, I don't want to pull on his face too much, so if possible, I'm going to have the reins fairly slack. They are snug enough. If he went to jump, I could pull one around fairly quick if need be. So I'm going to steer him just a little bit this way. And this morning, he was really bracing with his mouth. I should say yesterday he was really bracing. This morning, he got slightly better. And I feel like right now, he's already kind of in a mood where he's going to guide a little bit more willingly than he was earlier. So I'm going to start maybe rolling back a little bit into the fence once in a while. So I'll ride up here, kind of guide to the panels, swing him around, and now I'm trying to get his front end to move around a little bit. I don't want to just steer and change directions. I want his back end to plant just a tiny bit and have his front end pivot around sort of like so. So I want to get some control over the front end of this colt. Then I'm just going to cruise around for another minute or so. And then at some point here, I'll start trotting him, but I just want to give him just a second longer. As everybody that was here earlier probably saw, he does tend to get a little stuck at this fence. So I'm just going to create a little bit of commotion when we get here if he tries to freeze up. I don't want to make a big argument, but I don't want to work on that problem much longer. So I'm just going to let him cruise around slack. So I'm pretty happy with that. Now at some point here, if he wants to lope, so as long as we don't get stuck at that gate, I'm happy. Now I'm going to try to stop him. Kind of like so. And then I'm just going to walk off the other way. And I'm not going to do a lot of fast stuff because I do need to kind of save him. As short a time as this feels like it is sometimes in these competitions, you actually have to make sure you don't burn up your horse because they have to do a lot on the last day. So we have to be careful to get enough out of them without pushing our luck. So I'm going to like if this colt would trot off this way just a little bit here. Again, we get stuck at the gate sometimes. I'm not going to let him pause there.
That's a fine line you walk with saving a horse for the finals, eh?
I feel that's kind of a big thing. You can sometimes look like you're doing a lot, and then at the end, you've just done one step too far, and you got nothing left.
Yeah.
At the same time, you don't do enough, and that comes with its own little list of problems.
Yeah, it can backfire too, you bet.
So I'm pretty happy with that. Again, I'm going to ask him to stop about here. Kind of like so. I'm going to ask him to back up a step or two. There, 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 there. And he kind of turned his way out of it, but I don't care that much about that part. I might guide him around over a few little obstacles here. We'll just see. I'm just going to do this fairly gentle. Again, anywhere but here. Got some different colored tarps here today. So we got our white one. I'm going to see if I can come in on an angle and catch both of them. I'm happy with that. Now, something I touched on just a little bit this morning. I want to start getting him where he flexes around and gets soft through the head and neck. So I'm just going to put my left foot out here a little bit, draw this colt around, and that's pretty darn soft because this morning he braced a heck of a lot trying to get him to give like that. So I'm just going to do this a couple more times. Draw him around, and then release on him. I think that time it was kind of a freebie on my part. Draw him around and get him to give again there. So that was pretty good. His right side was quite a bit stickier than his left this morning, so I'm going to see how soft I can be with this one. There. And if anyone was here this morning, this colt was backing up, shaking his face, doing about everything other than softening up. So I'm really happy with that part. Do this again. That was pretty soft. I'll do it one more time, and then we're going to get away from this part here. There. So I'm pretty tickled with that. Now, you got to be a little bit careful. Sometimes you can get one so soft through the head and neck that they bend as they run off the other direction with you. So there is a little bit of a limit to this one. You want them soft, but you don't want them like a wet noodle through the neck. So I tend to do it a little bit, but then later on I do a lot of just trotting circles, guiding the horse around as opposed to just standing there flexing all the time. So I'm just going to try to go over these rails here. I'm just going to do this one out of walk.
For you guys watching along, if you've noticed, we've got 3 different trainers, one with a Bosel, one with a leather bit, and one with a ring snaffle, and all horses are soft. I think it goes to show that it's more in the hands and the release than it is for what's on their face.
So I think that's the first time we've trotted those, so I'm happy with that part there. Yes, that is a good point. There are 3 different styles of training, so you always have to take that into account. The other 2 are wrong, mind you, but it's good to see what they do too.
Right.
You need something to compare to. That's
I think it was Patrick Hooks from down in Texarkana said that the only bit that really matters is a bit of knowledge.
Yep.
True statement.
Very witty. I'm just going to guide this guy around here. We've never approached this from this side before. And that's how you side pass off a bridge. That's how I always begin my side passing. I'm just going to walk him forward one more time. This time, instead of pausing, I'm just going to go all the way off the other side, unless he really suggests that I could use bugger. What I meant to say, I like to circle the bridge once first before going all the way over. I really should stop calling this stuff before I do it. Also, I like to stop in front of the bridge first. There. So I'm just going to make a point of rubbing on him. Nice. I want him to think of this as actually as the place that he wants to be, as opposed to something that I just get him over. So kind of rub on him there. I'm just going to guide his nose, so if we can step off it, we can maybe go a little bit straighter, but it's not the end of the world either way. Good. Again, we always get stuck at this little, I'm going to get full looseness here. I don't want to pull on him at all when he's here. I'm just going to play around again. I need to start working on the rope a little bit, but as I kind of keep mentioning, I'm not that great a roper, so I like to play with the whips first. I'm going to get myself caught in 2 whips here. Again, anywhere but this section right here. Okay. So I'm pretty happy with that part. And if anyone ever thinks about getting into mounted shooting, trust me, it's a good idea to do this part first. We have a fan club over there for that, apparently. So I'm just going to step off this boy for a second. I have not done much with the rope yet, so I'm just going to grab that.
I'd be nice to these people over here. I feel like they have guns.
You ever try that, mounted shooting?
I did get to try it a little bit. Yeah, I always wanted to get into it, but I found with horses it's hard enough to have one hobby, let alone 7, and then kids' hobby to go on top of that.
I just hope that that guy down there, what's his name, isn't going to take all the pistols away from the mounted shooters too and put an end to that. My goodness.
I think that's going to be harder than he thinks.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to take here and kind of sack this colt out just a little bit. I'm far enough away from the gate that I don't feel like I'm letting him away with anything right now. But I'm just going to shake this around a little. I do apologize for him. He is showing his butt to the crowd, so he's not maybe the most polite colt in here today. But I'm just going to shake this around. Then I'm going to get him to move while I'm swinging it around a little bit. So if he gets just a little bit upset by this, I can live with that. But I just want him moving forward, not backing up. There. So that's pretty decent. Tolerating that. No, we ain't stopping here. That's actually a lot better. Now what I'm going to do just going to turn him to this side. And we're going to start messing around here with dragging something. So now this colt is fairly straight. I'm just going to turn him a little bit so that I make sure he sees it. There we go. Then I'm going to bring it up here, kind of pull it back and forth a few times, make sure he's pretty good about that. Then we're just going to drag this tarp around here for a second. So I'm happy with that. If things went a little bit wrong, I could just drop my rope. Now what I'd like to do is turn him around and have him back away from it and think that he's pulling it a little bit. And I can kind of cheat with this one just by drawing the tarp up here. We're in a little bit of a funny angle. So I'm going to take this, throw it out in front, and then pull it back. And throw it out in front, pull it back, kind of like so. Then I'd like him to back up just a few steps from it. A little stuck there, but that was a wee bit, and I'm just going to pull it up here one more time. And honestly, that's all I care about for the moment.
I know a lot of broke horses that you wouldn't have got away with that on.
Yeah. It's surprising, though, sometimes with this stuff, the things that a lot of horses can't deal with, if you get it done right off the bat, that's their regular life. So I've heard it described sometimes, if you take a horse and start them in a situation like this, their typical day is being rode with 500 people around. So then later on, when you get on them and there's nobody around, it's a pretty darn easy day, where sometimes when you start them in super quiet situations, then everything is scary that shows up that's new. So sometimes it's surprising how well these colts adapt very quickly to this type of thing. One thing I want to do now is start moving this colt's body parts around. So what I mean by that is, I've got him bending and flexing a little bit through his head and neck. I was rolling back through the fence, moving his front end around. Now I want to play around with moving his back end around. So I'm going to draw this colt's face to the side, slip my leg back, and if he wasn't being so rude again, yes, we'll give you a minute. I think this colt was born in Manitoba. I'm just going to draw on him here, hold, put my leg on, and swing the hip around kind of like that. And it wasn't terribly pretty, but as long as his hip moves to the right, I'm happy. So I'm going to get out of these little obstacles here again. I'm going to get over here, in theory. I'd like to kind of stop him or at least pause him. Draw this rein around, put my leg on, and I'm just going to start lightly bumping. And the moment this colt's hip moves to the right, I'm just going to let go of everything. So right like that. So I'm really happy with that part right there. I'll maybe do that one more time on this side. Draw the face around, leg back, kind of bump on him. There. And he moved his front end a little bit more on that one. Thank you. He moved his front end a little bit at the start, but then I just held on until he moved his back end. And honestly, I'd be very happy with that. I don't feel that I need to work on that till it's perfect, just like everything else I've been playing with here. I just want to do it till it works a wee bit, and then I leave and do something else for a minute. Now this side here might be a little stiffer. Same deal. Face goes right. Now I want the hip to move left. So I'm going to start rocking on him just lightly, and you can see he's kind of wondering what to do about this. So I will not increase the pressure because I feel like he's already trying to debate his way out of this little predicament. Now he braced. Kind of, but not really. I'm just going to start tapping on him again. I want this hip to move left. There. Not a real big one, but there's a little something there to reward. So I'm just going to pet on him. Now, one thing I just want to point out, a lot of times you hear about horses that are hard-mouthed. And yes, that definitely happens. I'm not trying to say it doesn't. But usually that's rigidness through the body more than the mouth. So it's surprising sometimes when you start this type of stuff, if you get them soft through the body, all of a sudden you find you have a soft-mouthed horse, even though you really weren't working on their mouth all that much. But it's you're taking resistance out of their body and you're suppling them up through their body, not just fighting with their face all the time. So this colt here, again, this is definitely his stickier side. I'll just keep tapping about like this. If we really don't get it, I could give him a little harder tap, and I might hear in a second if he doesn't figure this out. There.
15 minutes to go here, Jason.
Right on. I'm going to get this one more time, just a little bit. That time was a little bracier than I wanted. There. And I'm happy with that. So now I'm just going to take and kind of cruise around on this colt for a minute, just because I want to give him a little bit of a mental break. Same thing as before. I might just sort of shuffle in the saddle, sit back here, kind of rock my weight back on his hind end, just get him kind of where he's carrying me around and being relaxed about it. If he wants to stop, that's totally fine too. Again, anywhere except for that gate, just because that's sort of his little thing in life. He just likes to get stuck there a whole lot, and that's just something that we ain't doing here. I'm just going to pet away on him for another second or two, and then we'll kind of do something else. And a lot of times these little short breaks, it's surprising how important they are. They give that colt just a minute to kind of let down, understand that that's all you needed from him, and then move on. But if you jump from one exercise to another, to another, to another, they feel like every time they give you something, you just want more all the time. So if you throw those little breaks in there, you get a chance to reward them several times. And now I'm going to kind of go back to moving this colt's shoulders around just a little bit, sort of like so. And this here was really going to, I think, anyways, help me with the steering on this guy. Because this guy was fairly bracy to give him to the bridle. But if I set this up properly, the fence is going to help me make these turns. And then in theory, this should be a lot easier. So I can put some guiding around on him and make the fence do half of the work. And anytime I can do less work, I'm a happy fella. That's going to kind of play with that for a second. I'm going to stop this guy once more. I'm going to back him up a step or two. He's fairly bracy with the backup, so that's why I'm working on little short periods here and there as opposed to going around and working on it for 10 minutes at a time. So I'm pretty happy with that part there. I'm just going to step off him for a minute. I'm just going to pull his tack here. I feel like probably done enough. Again, I feel like this colt has a lot to give. But I feel like mentally, he's kind of one that you ask for too much, and quite likely you're going to kind of wish you hadn't. So a lot of breaks with him I feel like are very, very important. I want to have this guy fresh and happy for tomorrow. So that's why you don't see me loping around here a whole lot. I did do it a little bit. I just want to make sure it was there, but I don't want to kind of push my limit. So I'm just going to pull his tack off, like I mentioned. And again, any chance I get, I'm going to draw him up to me and just sort of pet on him. Because we need to get a little bit of a relationship going here. It's fine to teach a horse the maneuvers and all that stuff, but I want to go ahead and get a little bit of rapport. Or I feel like I have rapport with him, but I want more. So I'm just going to walk him around for just a second, get in a slightly better position. Actually, let's change that. So now this is the part where I wish I did more Pilates. That's how you get their back feet on the bridge. I got the front earlier. I'm just going to wait every time I feel like he's going to move. I'm not going to stop what I'm doing, but I'm not going to do more. So how's your day going? Good.
Wouldn't it be fun to be flexible right there?
Are you insinuating I'm not? And then I'm just going to get this guy to walk out of it.
I'm giving you credit. I couldn't have done that.
Boy. 3 minutes to go, Jason.
3?
3.
Okay.
No, wait a minute. No. What's this? No, it's 10 minutes to go.
10 minutes.
Yeah. Didn't want to panic you there. Ooh.
So I'm just going to kind of mess around with this stuff. This is obviously pretty easy. Well, I should say that. I might get bucked off in a second, so I'm not going to say it's easy. But I'm not asking for a lot from him other than just to carry me around. I want him relaxed about this. Also, too, with my weight kind of flopping around here, not that I'm the best bareback rider in the world, but it's just a way for him to get used to one more thing without me really asking anything of him. So all I want him to do is carry me around. If he'll do that, we're good. But he's still getting the feel of something else. So if somebody later on gets on him and they ride a little different than me, they're a little more likely to have success, because even though if I was the only one on him, it's going to have felt different.
That being said, guys, Scooby might have been sold, but Bugs and Daffy are still up for sale if you guys want to go to the Rockin' Hard booth and maybe discuss that. These are some pretty nice colts. I'd hate to pass them up.
This guy here, I'd really recommend him. Obviously, I've started some of these colts before from this program. They've always been very, very nice. And this colt here, it's always hard to say one's your favorite, especially when he looks like he's going to kick at me. It's really hard to say that they're your favorite at that exact moment. However, he is a very, very nice colt. So again, I'm just cruising around. Same deal as earlier. I'm kind of starting to swing my legs around on him a little bit just so that he can feel something other than just me sitting perfectly still. And this may not look like a big deal, but I think it's going to help this colt quite a bit in the scheme of things. So I might guide over a few little obstacles here just for something different to do while we're steering around on him. Go over here, see if I can't get out on the other end on the gray tarp. That's pretty good. Got around. I don't want him to get stuck, just because sometimes he gets stuck and then he starts thinking backwards. Kind of like so. Again, I'm just going to take and rub on him for a second. Give him a minute, and we'll see if we can't play with this. Almost like that. Does anybody have any questions just kind of while I'm moseying around? I know I'm allowed to have a little bit of extra time if I want it, but in total truth, I don't want it. I think this colt here has done a very good job for me, so I don't really want to ask for more when I feel like he's giving me so much. So I'm just going to maybe cruise around for another second. But is anything anybody's kind of thinking about that I haven't explained, or maybe that I should?
How about any freestyle suggestions for Jason? I know he's cooking something up right now, but maybe you guys got a good idea for him.
My plan for my freestyle is Cade is going to ride it. I feel like I've thought this out well. If he falls off, that's on him.
If I do good, it's on you.
I'm just going to bend him around to a stop, kind of like so. And actually, I could run through a few of the exercises that I've already done. It's just going to feel a little different this time. So I'm just going to soften him to one side. There. A lot of times, if you put that foot out, those colts will be curious and they'll reach around, touch your foot, and by accident, they kind of get trained to be soft through the face. So just play with this on this side, same deal. A lot of times I'll slide my foot out just to catch their attention. They'll reach around and sniff on it, and then we're pretty good shape. So now, one last little thing we're just going to play with here. Just on the off chance we go through the final part and this colt actually does pretty decent with me and we don't fall off and embarrass ourselves and one or two people decide to clap, what I'm going to get you to do, if you would play along, could you guys clap about medium? Just kind of a medium pace there. Okay. Not too bad.
That's pretty good. Yeah.
If you guys could just a shade louder on this side. Thank you very much. If you guys could clap on the borderline of very loud / Jason doesn't get bucked off. Perfect. Shh. Don't push our luck. And then if one more time, if everybody could make quite a bit of noise just in case we could do something pretty good tomorrow. So. Perfect. If I win the Trainer's Challenge, I will take the buckle and donate to all of you. Not that I'm trying to buy you off for the favorite ticket thing. So I'm just going to take here, hop off this boy. I'm just going to play with his feet a little bit. And this is something I tend to do at the end of his sessions just because I want to do it when he's relaxed and doesn't want to have a whole lot of argument about it. So if I do it at the start when he wants to move around a lot, I probably got to fix something that I don't really need to barely work on. This way here, I can go ahead and mess with this at a point where he's probably going to want to be pretty good about it. Good.
The Trainer Challenge is such a funny thing. Right now, you got more than enough time. How many times have you not had enough time to do what you need to do, and then this colt's been right there for you? You always got 5 minutes left, eh?
Yeah, I'm just absolutely tickled with this guy and everything he's done. How much time do I have? I don't mean to keep asking. 4 minutes?
Just under 4 minutes.
Okay. So I'm just going to take here. One little trick you can use, it's maybe not great to do in this guy. If you ever have a rope halter underneath your snaffle and you want to take it off, just draw the snaffle here, put it under the snaffle.
That's a handy little trick to get that off.
And then you can take it off underneath the bridle.
When it comes down to even, and I know Dustin's probably into this too, cowboy pride. I will not ever be seen riding a horse when I'm wearing a ball cap. The other thing is I will not be riding with my bridle over my halter. And I got a neighbor that does that. He said,
Thank you for pointing that out as being embarrassing now that I've done it 3 times. I really appreciate that, Hugh.
He wasn't going to say it on your first time.
Yeah. Jason rides with his bridle over his halter when he gets the chance. And I said, Jason, that's like wearing your underwear outside your pants.
Hypothetically, if I do that, is that weird?
Yeah.
I just got to mess around here for a second.
Best of luck.
Thank you. And again, this isn't really training as much as it is riding around and just kind of getting him used to something new. But anyways, I'm pretty happy with this guy. And I'm just going to give him a minute here. Same deal. I'd rather he did not stop here.
Do you want us to do the noise thing again?
Yes, when Dustin comes in. And this is how we bail off really quickly. I'm show-offy, I'm not stupid. So I think with this guy, again, I'm just going to catch him. I'm going to do one or two more little desensitizing things if I have time. But honestly, I don't care if I get anything else done.
Well, Bugsy is turning into a rock star here.
Right. So again, kind of like I end all my sessions, I typically do it, draw the colt to me, just kind of have him even follow me around a little bit, stepping on this lead here. And I touched on it earlier, every time that colt looks one direction, I'm going to go somewhere else, but being totally honest, he is being pretty darn good about watching me now. He's showing me a lot more interest. He kind of looked that way, so I might look over here. A couple little simple exercises you can do. Get your colt a little softer. I did this earlier with the bridle on. I'm just going to do it with the halter a couple times. Get this colt to follow the field just a little bit better. Tomorrow there's so much steering involved, and it's surprising in the pen here, the walls hold you in pretty good, so you kind of get a lot of help. You get out in the big arena, and all of a sudden a lot of times it's pretty easy to have your steering fall to pieces on you. So anything I can do to get this colt guiding and following that soft feel, I think is a darn good thing.
10 seconds to go.
We'll get one more turn. Well, that's probably pretty good.
4, 3,
2. So I think we'll wrap it up there. Thank you very much, folks, for playing along. We'll see you tomorrow.